So hopefully there's some here if you wanted to take a look at a hard copy, but I'm also going to show you the online resource, which you can access either on a phone or on a computer or whatever you have available. We have it listed through the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council, or if you just search up Staying Safe resource, you should be able to find it, and it's as a flip book. So I'm going to show you a little bit about it, what it looks like. So when we go online, it's a bit of a flip book. And it even makes that noise like you're flipping a page. If you like that, you can also mute it on the side, which I'm going to do because it's a little annoying. It has a table of contents, so if you have something that you're looking for specifically, you could go to, oh, I need legal and financial resources, so I'm going to go to that section. Or maybe I'm working with somebody who just needs to know about what are my basic rights and what can I expect. We have some of that, or legal and financial supports. There's a whole list in there. And then at the back, we also have a safety checklist, so that if someone is experiencing elder abuse and they want to make sure that they're starting to plan for their own safety, there is a checklist and it's kind of a pull-out option. So we give some basic information about elder abuse and mistreatment, the types and things to be watching for, signs and things. And also what I like about this one is that we've also included some stories. So you'll see some little silhouettes, and then it'll say someone's story. These stories are all based off of actual cases that we've seen either in Alberta or some have been pulled from BC. And the names have been changed and some of the situations a little bit just so that they remain anonymous, but they are real situations. And so the hope is that it gives you a little bit more of a personalized flavor to reading the book, which is very resource-based, and so it can be dry sometimes. So hopefully those are helpful. And then we've got some kind of highlighted statements when we found things to be important for people to know. And there's some tips around how to clear your browsing history if you're using it and you're worried somebody's going to see that you are checking out elder abuse resources. So really practical and helpful things. And there's also a button at the top that you can see that's like a big play button. It's also audio. So if you are, if you don't speak English as your first language, sometimes that it's more difficult to read. Or if your reading comprehension is at a different level than the book is written at, you can also listen for the audio version as well. We talk about applying for pensions, and we talk about some different pieces around if you are a newcomer to Canada, and immigration pieces. So hopefully it's helpful and has a little something for everybody in there. We talk about safety orders. There's lots of questions around what are protection orders, what are restraining orders, different ways that you apply for things. So those kind of basic information are in there. And then there's some links to where you can get more resources. We also talk about the rights of grandparents and what options you have around grandchildren and access to grandchildren. Separation of property, division of property, and different things that you might own, because these are the questions that we most often come across when people are considering either leaving a situation of abuse or are dealing with a situation of abuse. These are the questions that they kind of have about all those big areas, right? And that really change and can make a difference for how you're going to be able to leave a situation and what are your next steps and what you have rights and access to. And then we have a list of resources at the back, including shelters that are available, health resources, ways that you can, numbers to call, websites to check out. And then here's that safety plan, as I mentioned, that you can kind of do a pull-out. And it just gives you some really practical tips to think about if you're worried about the situation escalating and possibly being unsafe. And really for anybody, we suggest that you kind of read through this and think about it. Having a plan of how you would get out and what you would do to make sure that you stay safe is really important. And also, finally, I like to do a little plug. So Medicine Hat was really instrumental in this work. We actually had several people from Medicine Hat who helped to edit and go through the book. And it was partially created by Colleen Demke, who's a local individual who's worked with elder abuse, and myself. And then we have, like, some of you might know Laverne Noble, some of you might know Marie-Claude Scahill. She works over at Samus Immigration. There's several others actually from our area who've helped to contribute and edit and look through the book. So there is a local piece involved in that as well, which I always think is nice, because oftentimes when it's a provincial resource or a resource like this, it's created somewhere else in some big city by people that we don't know. But there is an element that that we've all gone through this and said, yeah, this is applicable even in our own community or in these rural settings. So that's what I have for the Staying Safe resources. I believe also that Peggy has some information at the back if you have more questions or pieces that you want to get access to. She also has business cards if you want to access their services. There's also some cards for the family violence line. So you can always call that. That's 24/7, and they have, I think it's around 150 different languages available. So hopefully there's access for anyone who's interested in receiving support and resources to find it. And then I think we'll just go through a few more videos if that's okay with everyone. Okay. If I can get out of this, hopefully. There we go. So I like this one because it's about decision making.
Are we sure we're ready to sell?
We've lived in this house nearly 50 years.
We know, Dad.
Well, the market's not going to get any better, and neither is his house.
It's the right move to make financially. God knows these bills never stop.
I always pay the gas first, then electric, then
The
telephone.
house needs some work. Painting at a minimum. Maybe the roof.
That roof's good for another 10 years.
Can he afford that?
He doesn't have a choice. Not if we want a quick sale.
What are we going to do with all his junk?
You can't buy furniture like that anymore.
We could always donate it.
Have you checked out some of these retirement communities?
They all look the same to me.
They don't all cost the same.
So what were some of the red flags that you saw there?
Not involving him in the conversation.
Yeah, not involving him at all in the conversation. And actually even ignoring some of his comments, right? Like he wasn't there, like he's not even a person in the room. Yeah. Anything else you would be concerned about? Trying to move him maybe somewhere else and trying to make it out like he's not taking care of his bills or taking care of the home that he maybe once did. But really he's saying he has a plan. He knows how to do it. He knows that things are still good. And the way that they speak about his belongings too, right? It's very disrespectful. Oh, sorry.
My kids are worried about me, I guess. I want to make sure that I'm taken care of, as long as they're not the ones that have to do it. But you know, I'm not ready to sell this house. Not yet.
That's so typical of them in their generation. So entitled to everything. You think the only reason that they think we brought to earth is so they could be happy. You've got to set them straight.
So again, we hear that you got to set them straight. Like it's something that that person should be doing instead of saying, I'm here for you, those sort of things. So let's try that again.
Kids are worried about me, I guess. I want to make sure that I'm taken care of, as long as they're not the ones that have to do it. But you know, I'm not ready to sell this house. Not yet.
You know, I think the kids have your best interests at heart, but sharp as a tack. It's your life. What do you want to do with it?
So a little different approach than maybe what we've seen from other people, but he's still trying to be supportive and still trying to say that that his friend still has ability to make decisions for himself, right? You still have the right to choose what you want to do with your life. Any other comments on that one? Had anybody, just before I move on, I don't want to keep us moving too fast, but.
The lie of you saying, I think they have your best interest at heart. I can see that as gaslighting. You know, if you're telling somebody that this is A, B, and C are happening, and they go, well, and dismiss and belittle it, that's, I think, a way of shutting somebody up. But then he does the reopening.
Right. Yeah.
It's confusing.
You're right, and
Getting a mixed message person.
I think this shows, though, that it's that we don't have to be perfect when we have this conversation, that we might stumble a little bit. Because you're right, by saying that they have their best interest at heart, he doesn't actually know. I think he's trying to be supportive of this older gentleman and think the best of his children, so that he continues to feel supported and doesn't shut down the conversation. But you're right, it could be seen as gaslighting or as shutting it down by saying, oh, I'm sure they have their, you know, kind of like that patronizing answer of like, yeah, I'm sure they're fine and they've got your best interest at heart. But you're right, then he still does open the conversation and he kind of redeems it by saying, you still have the right to make choices. And then if it was me, I would still follow up and say, I'm here to support or help in any way I could, right?
Right, because we hate it when somebody attacks our family or maybe, you know, sees them in, we can say they're bad, but if somebody else does, you might go, uh-oh.
Yes, and I think especially with elder abuse, that is part of it. We know that it's most often children, grandchildren, family members, that's where it becomes very difficult because often people have been very involved in their lives. These are our family members. We feel like we should be able to trust them and that they should have our best interest at heart, or that we've helped to raise this person and now look at, they're taking advantage of me. So that's where some of that shame and guilt come in, and that's where I think it's just careful. We need to be careful how we approach the subject. And so I think you're right, steering kind of clear of that and just saying, I'm here, I'm concerned, I want what's best for you, and I'm willing to support you in whatever that looks like. Those are the most helpful ways to be able to have that conversation. I think we'll try one or two more if that's okay with everybody.
Jamal is a good son. He worked very hard so I could come here to live in this country with his family. He looks after me, my health, my finances. He's a good man.
Of course I respect my mother. It's how I was raised. We honor our parents.
I'm no longer as young as I once was. My son and daughter-in-law work while I raise their children, get them ready for daycare, school, make them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, do the housework. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but life here is so different.
It's like she doesn't appreciate all that I do for her. She looks for things to complain about.
Jamal takes care of my money. I don't see my paychecks or bank statements. Of course, if I ask for a little extra shopping money for myself, he makes a fuss. I have everything. But yet, nothing of my own.
She embarrasses me with all her complaining.
My life here is so different from what I expected. I want to go home.
She said that she wants to go back home. To what?
I'm afraid he'd be upset if I asked. He's already done so much for me.
I've given her everything, and I get nothing but grief in return.
My son is a good man, but he doesn't listen.
So I'm sure you can see some of the red flags, concerns. And sometimes immigration issues can be challenging too for people.
My son is a good man, but he doesn't listen.
I know it's hard, Huda, but this is the way it's always been. It could be worse. You don't want to bring shame to your family. It's not worth it. Try to be happy.
Oh, how deflating would that be if you heard that, right?
good man. But he doesn't listen.
I know he's a good man. He expects a lot. But you expect a lot from yourself as well. It's your life. But if you decide what's best for you,
I have 2 more short ones, so we'll.
Mom, we really need you to get here earlier.
Can't take care of the baby while getting ready for work. It's a long drive for me.
Well, we agreed that it's easier for you to come here.
And traffic wouldn't be so bad if you left an hour sooner. Did you tell her about the schedule?
Yeah, we're gonna need you to come Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from now on.
With the renovations, we can't afford daycare. I'll have to sing. I've got my water aerobics class on Thursday. I'm sure there are other classes. If it's a problem, we can ask my parents, and your mother doesn't have to see her grandson at all.
You want to spend time with your grandson, don't you?
Of course I do, but I hate to hear him crying when I'm leaving. Would you mind?
Thanks.
So this one, using the access to the grandchildren, right, as the thing that's leverage. That it, well, if you loved us and if you want to continue seeing them, that you'll make these changes in your life.
And they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely, taking advantage. Yep.
I've been so busy. But when you offered to buy me a latte, I couldn't refuse.
Oh, if I didn't, I'd never see otherwise. You're supposed to be retired, but you seem to have a whole other career now. Hope they pay you well.
Oh, yes. Along with my pension, I'm just rolling in it.
We miss seeing you. Aqua aerobics isn't the same without you. You happy with the way things are?
Just a simple thing, right? We miss seeing you. Are you happy with the way things are? Just checking in. Okay, my last one is actually, it's more of a video regarding a doctor. And so as professionals, we are not immune to sometimes misstepping as well. And so there's some pieces that we can also learn in how we do things differently. So I'm going to show you just that one quickly, and then we'll be done with my portion.
What time is it? It's 12:15. We'll get some lunch after this. Where's my purse? Here you are. Oh, thank you. What time is it? It's 12:15, Mom. We gotta get some lunch.
These are the resources for people living with dementia I was telling you about. Your mother's gonna need this as her dementia progresses. I need you to make sure she takes her medication exactly as prescribed.
Can you please explain that to her?
Listen to me, Bubby. You have to be more careful with your pills, okay? She needs to take one at breakfast.
Can you tell her?
Take one with breakfast, one with lunch, and one with dinner. Only 3 a day. It's important she understands. Do you understand, dear?
What about my memory? I'm having trouble remembering things, and I can't sleep at night.
You have to take your pills, dear. We'll see how she does with that, and I'll have you back here in 6 weeks.
Well, that was helpful.
So that doesn't make you feel very good, does it? The way that he's talking to her, the way that he calls her different, like Bubby and dear and different things. And even the way he changes his tone and doesn't give the same information. You need to be better about taking your pills, right? He's just very condescending in the way that he's talking to her. And just because she has a dementia diagnosis doesn't mean she doesn't understand anything. She might have a hard time retaining and things might progress where it's more difficult. But where possible, we want to speak respectfully. We want to make sure that we can include the person in the decision-making, give them both the information at the same time, and be better at doing things.
And he didn't give her any like, tools. Like, if you're supposed to take something 3 times a day, well, is there something on the fridge? Or
Right. There's a whole host of different mechanisms you could use, right? Blister packs, you could have home care come for med delivery, you could do a whole bunch of different things, but instead it's just he's kind of given her heck. You need to be better. Yeah, yeah. Which also it seems like for the caregiver isn't that helpful either, right? Like she's looking for some help and support, and she seems like she's maybe feeling a little bit burnt out by things. So I think if we're paying attention, we need to be mindful of that as well and trying to really provide some help. This is the truth. So these are some of the concerns that we want to be addressing and actually speaking to, and ways that we can help, right? Because if you can't recall what time it is, then it's probably not going to be safe to rely on you to remember at 12 o'clock I need to take this pill, and at 5 o'clock I have to take that pill. So we need to look at different ways that we could get that done in a safe way, and you can still do it. You're right, that could help. We could also enlist home care. We could look at a whole bunch of different things that are options, but very good point, especially because she doesn't seem to know what time it is, so. Okay, here's maybe the not greatest response.
We'll see how she does with that, and I'll have you back here in 6 weeks.
Well, that was helpful.
You're gonna have to face facts. You'll have to do more and more for your mother. She has dementia.
Really unhelpful and probably isolating feeling, right?
We'll see how she does with that, and I'll have you back here in 6 weeks.
Well, that was helpful.
I'm sure this is a lot of information for you both to take in right now. But that brochure is very helpful. If you're feeling overwhelmed and things are a little too much, there are resources in there that can really help. Don't isolate yourselves. Okay? Keep up your routines, okay? And see your friends as much as you can, and you too.
Thank you.
That was better, wasn't it? Just a little change, but it felt a lot better. Much more respectful and supportive and like, okay, we can make it, we can do this. We're a team, we're doing things. So that's my time for today. I really appreciate you listening and being engaged, and I hope that it was helpful. And I just appreciate your time today. Thank you.